What's up, everyone? It's your girl Shay here. Welcome to my channel. If you are new, welcome back to my channel. If you have been here before, as you see by the title of today's video, I am talking about Fanime Con. So I usually go to the Fanime Convention, pretty much every single year. I first started going back in 2013. It was my first time going after I graduated from college, and I went with a group of friends. And since probably about 2016, I've been pretty much going every single year, either for the entire weekend or for just maybe a couple of days. Really just depends on what's going on during that time. But I did want to offer just my review on Fanime 2023 as a whole, pretty much. So one of the things I do have to say is that every single year, Fanime does find a way to make the badge process or the badge picking up process a little bit easier. So this time they did still once again have everyone standing in a really, really long line for you to be able to pick up your badge. But this time they actually had a great system. So you were standing in one big line, and then they took the lines and basically cut them into 4 separate lines. For the 4 separate lines really had no direct purpose. It was just as a way to be like, to let in a certain number of group of people at a time, so that it wasn't like just one person and then another person. So they let in like whole groups of people. So that actually did make it a lot easier. And to be honest, when my husband and I first arrived to pick up our badges, which was considered day 0, we actually saw how long the line was and was very concerned. We actually weren't for sure like how long it was going to take. I actually thought it was going to take a long time. But to be honest, from start to finish of me standing in line, it probably took me about, well, the total process was about an hour and a half, but that was with us like trying to find parking, driving there. But the process of just standing in line, it probably took about closer to about 30 minutes, which really wasn't bad considering the amount of people that we actually saw standing in line. Another thing I do want to say about Fanime 2023 is that they actually still kept up a lot of the COVID restrictions. Even though where I'm at, a lot of the COVID restrictions have pretty much lifted. You don't have to wear a mask inside the stores anymore, or really a mask anywhere. As long as like, it's just kind of like up to you if you still want to wear one. I personally still wear a mask every now and then, like going to stores or places where I am going to be around a lot of people, because I do feel that masks do work. I know that some people do feel differently, which you are entitled to your own opinion, but I do feel like they work. But for Fanime, they actually had pretty strict COVID restrictions, pretty much very similar to the ones that they had last year, where pretty much to go, you had to show proof that you were vaccinated and that you were boosted. You also had to wear a mask full time at the convention, inside, as well as like just in any of the surrounding areas. And they did actually check to make sure that you were wearing your mask, so there was really no way of getting away with it. Also, they did want you to eat. When you ate, take off your mask in between bites. That's the only part with wearing a mask that I don't really agree with, or because to me I find that a little bit difficult to do something like that. To me, if you're going to eat, to me just have it off the entire time that you are eating, but then once you finish, put the mask back on. But they pretty much kept up those restrictions or those regulations, which I actually was very, very surprised about. I actually assumed that they might have the mask restrictions or the mask, having to wear a mask at the convention still there, but not the whole vaccination check, but they still did. And I have to say, once again, I didn't mind this that much, only because of the fact that, as we all know, sometimes people at conventions can be kind of disgusting. And to me, it's a great way for you to not catch as many germs as you would have if you were not wearing a mask as well, because some people do forget that to cough and sneeze you need to cover your mouth, and this was a great way to kind of mediate that as well, and to kind of mediate the smell when you had some people at the convention who forget that showering and brushing your teeth are a part of a regular day hygiene. Again, not pointing anybody out, but I'm just saying, we all know those types of people at conventions. Also, I did notice certain trends at the convention. So one thing I see every single year is like a certain trend when it comes to merchandise, specifically merchandise in Artist Alley, as well as in the dealer's hall, because at Fanime, they are actually pretty separate. So they have one part for the dealer's hall, which is pretty much everything that's supposed to be official merchandise, or pretty much just like shops, you know what I mean? And then you have Artist Alley, which are pretty much people who have like your typical Etsy stores and stuff like that, and they pretty much set up in another room. And I actually go to both because sometimes there's things that I don't find in the dealer's hall or don't look great in the dealer's hall, but I look at it in Artist Alley and you find some pretty cool prints and stuff like that that I really do want to buy. But I always every year notice a trend of things that are, you know, kind of the thing that everybody's making and people are wanting to buy. So you still do see your typical things that people are trying to buy, like pins. I feel like a lot of enamel pins are still pretty much in. But I feel like last year it was a lot of stickers. But this year it was a lot of keychains or phone charms was kind of what I saw. And I mean like phone charms that have like the little clasped kind of a hook. I was seeing that everywhere. While I did see a few the previous years, I feel like this year it just really exploded, and pretty much almost every Artist Alley booth had some sort of phone charm that you could buy. So that was one thing that I really did notice. Also, of course, every single year there's always a trend or the most hip, I don't even like using that word, it makes me sound old. But pretty much whatever's the most popular anime that most people are cosplaying as or most people have a lot of merchandise for that people can pretty much want to buy. Last year was Spy Family. This year was definitely Chainsaw Man. I have not seen Chainsaw Man, but now after seeing all the cosplays and all the merchandise, it makes me really want to watch it. I do know that I have a few friends that do read the manga and they have really been enjoying it. So maybe I will have to check it out sooner or later so I can figure out what all the hype is about regarding Chainsaw Man. Now, as far as like what other things I kind of had at Fanime that I really did enjoy, I did enjoy going to the swap meet. I did not buy anything at the swap meet, but I did pretty much look around to see if there was anything of interest. I am a great proponent for the swap meet. To me, my whole thing is if you have things that you want to get rid of, but let's say you have stuff that somebody is actually looking for, to me, that's a great way for you to be able to get rid of it. But it also goes to a great home or goes to somebody else who is really interested in what it is that you are trying to sell. But I didn't find anything. There were some things I looked at, but ultimately with me looking at some of those things, I was like, this isn't something I need to bring home. It's not a need, it's kind of a want. And at this point, I shouldn't be wanting anything because at that point, I had spent way too much money on merchandise and I was not trying to buy anymore. And no, I'm not going to pretty much show what I bought at the convention, only because of the fact that I did buy a few gifts for friends and I want to be able to give it to them, and I don't want them to see what I bought for them when this video goes out, because I will not have seen them by the time this video gets released. As far as any feedback that I have for Fanime as well, because while it is a convention and while I did have a lot of fun and while I did really enjoy myself, I have to give at least a little bit of feedback. But before the feedback, I do want to mention that I did go to some panels. In previous years, I did not really go to as many panels. None of the panels that they had really struck me of interest that I wanted to go to. But this year I did go to one panel, and as you guys know, I do enjoy K-pop, so I wanted to go to this panel that was titled Why Second Generation K-pop Paved the Way. I really want to see it because that's still kind of a bit of a discussion within the K-pop community of who exactly paved the way for K-pop and made it as popular as it is today. And people have their own answers to this specific question. And me and a friend of mine actually said that we feel like depending on in what way they mean paved the way, can give a different answer that many people would find acceptable. For example, for myself, I feel like paving the way to the West and the US, I really feel like it was me personally. Not me personally, but I feel like it was BTS that paved that way. Because while, yes, the second gen might have laid down a little bit of the foundation, they didn't ultimately succeed the way that BTS did. And I think because BTS succeeded, they really did pave that way for other, generations of K-pop groups to feel like they're able to make it in America and make it a lot more widely acceptable, if that makes sense. But it was interesting to go to this panel because I wanted to see what they had to say, because a lot of times people will say a specific generation is what paved the way for K-pop, and then they then bash other generations by downplaying their achievements. So that's why I wanted to see what this panelist or what this host of this panel was pretty much having to say. And to be honest, it was actually very interesting of a panel. I really couldn't disagree with a lot of things that he said, because he didn't specifically only talk about the rise in the West of K-pop. He really talked about other aspects of K-pop of where they did pave the way, like music videos being super intricate or like done in 1080p, because they weren't done like that before. It was during the rise of when social media was on its rise, but not where it is currently today. So to me, I really did enjoy that panel. That was the only panel that I attended. The only other panel that I thought about attending was the bad fanfiction panel, but it started pretty late and I didn't want to sit there for 2 hours through this panel reading bad fanfiction, because if I wanted to read bad fanfiction, I can read it on my own. But also because of the fact that fanfiction is written by people that are just going about their lives and wanting to write fanfiction, it's really hard for me to like be the judge on something that's considered bad, because there is fan fiction that I myself have really enjoyed but other people did not enjoy or said was bad, but I myself, like I said, really did enjoy. But yeah, I digress. As far as feedback that I have for Fanime, and this was something that me and my husband talked about on our way back from Fanime, is that I really wish that they would have done back checks. So while they were really big on checking to make sure that you had a mask on, that you got your vaccination checked as well, they were very big on the COVID restrictions. They also were very big on making sure that those who were at the convention were those that had paid for a ticket. So like you had your typical lanyard that had your badge on it, but they also gave you one of those festival wristbands where there's no way to get it off once it's on. You have to shower with it, wash your face with it, all of the above. And then once it's over with, you can cut it off your wrist. They had that as well, and they checked every single time you walked through those doors to make sure you had all of the above. But to me, the one thing that they needed to check that they didn't was bags. Now they did check people's props and made sure their props were allowed inside, etc., etc. But if you walked in there with a bag, and I typically wear a backpack pretty much everywhere I go, one of those small backpacks, they never checked my backpack once. Granted, it's not like I was bringing anything in that was, going to cause any problems or stuff like that, but it's still a backpack, and to me, they should be checking people's bags or purses who are bringing things in, just to make sure that no one is bringing anything in that is going to harm others. Considering the fact that in the US where I live at, mass shootings and stuff like that are things that are becoming more of a norm, and they do cause a lot of anxiety for a lot of people, me being one of them. To be honest with you, when I'm in large groups of people, I do get very anxious just because of the fact that these things are now happening more and more in commonplace. An example is that in the movie theater, I am very aware of like what is going on around me when people are leaving, entering, stuff like that, just because of a past experience that had been on TV that had actually happened and stuff like that. So to me, that was one thing that they needed to do. I know that previous years, or at least one year in particular, they did do back checks, but that was only because there was an incident that had happened at not a convention, but at like a game tournament where someone did try to cause harm to a lot of others there, and that did cause them to make it where you did have to have your bag check going into the convention, as well as other conventions starting this as well. I do know that when I went to Crunchyroll Expo, they did do bag checks, but Fanime seems to be wishy-washy every year about bag checks. Now, I know some people have issues with bag checks because they can take a very long time and hold up you entering to the convention, but I'd rather be held up at that line for me to get my bag check and feel safe than for me to go in without my bag check and then have something happen. So I do wish that, they will start doing bag checks. And if bag checks are still such a big deal and people don't want to do bag checks, then to me, the simplest way is to limit what size bags are allowed into the convention. For example, as someone who has attended a few concerts over the past few years, one of the things that at that time or currently now that a lot of people are making sure people have for concerts are bags that only are of a particular size or smaller. They cannot be any bigger, and they have to be clear. So when they're clear, you can see what's actually in it, and because they're of a smaller size, you can't really fit a whole lot in there besides the essentials of what you're pretty much going to need. And let's be honest, at a convention, when you're going there, you do have like one bag with you that's going to have like your money, your phone, and anything else that you feel like you might need throughout the day, battery pack, stuff like that. But anything else that you need there, you're going to buy when you're at the convention, like all the merchandise. And if you don't have a bag, or if you need a bag that's, like maybe not a little bit bigger, but a bag that is going to fit more so all your essentials, if you have like too small of a bag, I'm sure at the convention you can buy another bag, because there are a lot of vendors there that are selling things that aren't anime related, but are actually great just for everyday life. So that's one of my biggest feedbacks for Fanime, is that they do start doing bag checks, just because I feel like it would make a lot of people probably feel a lot safer. I know some people think, oh, like it's a convention, like no, nothing crazy should happen because, you know, in this case it's anime related, so it's just a lot of nerds and stuff like that. But you never know who's walking up off the street. You never know how, you know, somebody might get inside. Or even with the fact that with this particular convention, a lot of people hang out outside of the convention, taking pictures, doing meetups and stuff like that, and not everything happens inside. So to me, that's a great way to try and keep everyone safe, is by doing those bag checks. And I hope they implement that next year. But yeah, that's what I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I enjoyed going to the conventions, and I highly recommend for anyone that's interested in going to anime conventions to definitely go. They're a lot of fun. You can meet a lot of people, make new friends, meet up with old ones. I also did that in this year also. And also, you can sometimes find out about shows that you hadn't known about before, or find merchandise that you really want to look for a particular show that you've not been able to find merchandise for as well. And a little bit of a tip, if you do go to a convention and it is weekend long, don't always buy everything on the first day. Sometimes space it out, because sometimes the vendors will lower the price if they're really trying to get rid of certain stuff, and that can be to your advantage. But make sure it depends on what it is that you're trying to buy. Like if it's a hot item that you know probably won't be there all weekend, then probably splurge and just spend a little bit more for it. But if it is something that you know a lot of people, or you feel like a lot of people aren't going to buy, or they have a lot of stock of, probably wait a little bit throughout the weekend and then buy it on the last day, because like I said, sometimes vendors will lower the price. But yeah, that's what I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will have links down below to all my social media accounts, my Instagram, my Twitter, and of course my TikTok, so please check me out on there as well. And yeah, if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. And yeah, like I always tell you guys, stay positive, stay nerdy in today's day and age, stay healthy, and of course, please stay safe. All right, you guys, bye.